The official greeting. First and third Sunday, PIMC, Portland Insight Meditation Center. And it's insight and metta. So we spend time with insight practice, seeing what arises clearly and how it passes away, and noticing how it causes suffering when we cling. And we spend some time doing some loving kindness metta practice as well. Usually I mix in a little bit of each of the Brahma Viharas, but the majority of it is metta and karuna, loving kindness and compassion. But I like bringing in mudita, which is joy, and upekkha, which is equanimity. So we all have our practices, which is nice. So let me make sure I have the right sound on so that you can hear the bell. Yes, settling. Wherever you are, on a chair or a couch or laying down in a bed, maybe you might even be standing. May we take this time to begin settling into our posture, settling into being comfortable yet upright. Taking a couple of nice long breaths and feeling this gravity where we're sitting or lying down. Being present, bringing ourselves to this moment. Everything that we perceive comes to us through the senses, and each of us perceives things differently. Sight to the eye door, sound to the ear door, taste at the door of the mouth, seeing at the eye door, touching where our hands touch or where our buttocks is touching, whatever places the body might be touching itself. And the thought door, what comes to the mind. And we do our best in mindfulness to be present in this very moment without immediately having perceptions about those sense doors. When we have perceptions about them, then we have ideas about them, and then we go on with thoughts about them. And so for the purpose of the formal practice, we take the time to relax and be in the present moment as best we can. And that can happen by any stimulus coming into one of the sense doors and being present and aware of what is arising. Mindfulness is there, awareness is there. And we can have continued attention on these changing objects at each of the sense doors. Seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, smelling, thinking. But sometimes at first we're not quite as concentrated as is helpful for letting go of grasping onto things coming into the senses. And so it can help for us to have a single object of attention. And that might be the breath at the nostrils, or at the lungs rising and falling, or at the diaphragm pressure as the air inhales and the release of that pressure on the exhale. Or maybe it's at a touch point, the buttocks on the chair or the hands as they rest in the lap or wherever they are resting. That can bring us into this very moment. And at both the touch point and at the breath point, we can notice whether something is rough or smooth, whether it's cool or warm. We can notice the breath, whether it's a short breath on the inhale or the exhale, or whether it's a long breath. And we can let ourselves begin this settling process by also including holding ourselves in kindness and in gratitude for ourselves for managing to be here, for choosing looking at the mind and the heart as our priority. And with that gratitude, we also have homage to pay to the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha. To the Buddha for showing us the way, for allowing us to understand that awakening can happen in this very life. And the teachings that he discovered from his hard work. And our own understanding of truths as they arise and are shown to us. And our appreciation for the Sangha, all of those who went before us for centuries and centuries. 2,664 years or something like that. That's a long time for the Dhamma to get transmitted from only being heard and remembered to finally being written down. Often when you read the suttas, you notice that it's repetitive and sometimes sort of sing-songy, because the way it was best remembered was in certain groupings and in certain ways that it could be repeated before it was able to be written down. And then we have all the translations of those who began writing it, who wrote it in their own vernacular where they live, and all the ways that the Sanghas from country to country have interpreted the teachings of the Buddha through their Sanghas. And we have great appreciation that it has made it to us and our sweet circle for Sunday insight and metta. And so we notice that breath. And sometimes it's nice to have a gentle relaxation activity of some kind, letting a flow through the body of relaxing behind the eyes, releasing the muscles around the temples and the face. Releasing held energy around the mouth, the tongue, the jaw, the lips. Letting this flow go down through our shoulders and rib cage, around our heart. Releasing, relaxing, holding ourselves gently and kindly. As that flow goes around our organs, including the length of our spine and our hips, whether seated, standing, or lying down, we can feel a sense of gravity that we can touch into a place at our bodies, our sits bones, or where our hands touch, to come back to this place, or to come back to the breath at the nostrils or the belly. As we spend this period of time being mindful and aware as often as we can. Sitting with openness to what arises, without judgment, without grasping onto what comes to the heart and mind, but just seeing clearly with mindfulness and awareness that whatever is arising comes together due to conditions. We can be with it for the period of time that we can connect and sustain our attention on it, to notice that it passes, that we can't hang on to it. And if we try to hang on to it because it's pleasant, we can't, and that may disappoint us. Or if we try to push it away because it's not pleasant, we usually can't do that either. And so there we are with the second noble truth of craving and clinging to something that may be different than the way we want it. And that can bring great joy, awakening in that moment to see where we are clinging. And so even in these moments of watching what's arising and passing away, whether it's pleasant or unpleasant, we can acknowledge awakening in the moment, mindfulness, moments being strung together, coming together and falling apart, coming together and falling apart. We may find, as is often the case, especially in the evening, that sleepiness and tiredness can arise. We may notice this hindrance without any judgment about it, just noticing, this is what's arising. And if our intention is to stay mindful and aware, we may notice some other things about it, if it's pleasant or unpleasant, or maybe we can't tell. Or if we open our eyes a little and let light in, we can stay a little more alert. We can even stand up. That is sometimes useful. And we may notice some other things as well, of aversion is arising, wondering why we're doing the practice or whatever else comes around in the mind that's aversive. We could notice grasping, craving. We can notice doubt in the practice. We can notice anxiety and restlessness. All of those hindrances or defilements are just part of our human condition. And so our practice in being mindfully aware of what's happening is to see these clearly when they arise as mind states not to be invested in, mind states to let go of, so that we can incline the mind toward something more skillful. Kindness for ourselves, compassion for ourselves, having just the right amount of energy needed to stay interested. Wisdom arises to see clearly whether something is skillful or unskillful. And so we have mindfulness, awareness, and wisdom, kindness and compassion, all as a place to incline the mind when we find ourselves wandering away from this present moment. We might ask ourselves from time to time, what is happening right now? What is the attitude of the mind right now? And if we're roaming off in thought patterns, we can wake up right in the moment that we are aware of the thought pattern. Oh, a wakeful moment, coming to the present. Bringing these moments of mindfulness together to help string together this necklace of concentration and mindfulness. Without shaming ourselves or feeling bad, we can just begin again. Also by going back to the breath or the touch point. It's a natural process, all part of nature. That we let go a little bit more of our sense of self. That we attend to elements in the body of earth and water, fire and air. All of the aggregates that come together to define who we are in this body is impermanent, and we see this directly, one breath at a time, one moment at a time. And we can remind ourselves that this practice can bring us complete freedom, no matter what we're aware of, whether it's difficulties or happinesses, we're present and aware. And as we notice a thought or an emotion that may be passing through, we might also like to use naming what we've noticed of just a simple word like thinking, feeling, or sensations. And we may notice any judgment or criticism we might have of ourselves for our efforts, but just add this little label, just a small portion of our mind state gives this soft, gentle label. And we can have gladness in the mind for noticing, and then just watch for whatever comes next. This simple step of naming and noticing can create a little bit of space between us and our experience. So we notice that thoughts and emotions begin, and if we let them be, they end. And we create a place where we can choose to follow them or not. And we do our best to notice and name thoughts as just thoughts, and emotions as just emotions. Thoughts come from somewhere and then they disappear again. And so this practice helps us notice the acts of thinking and feeling themselves, instead of the content of the individual thoughts and feelings. And so these thoughts and feelings are all shapes and sizes, and some are mild and some are overwhelming, and they come and go. And we see this clearly with mindfulness and awareness and wisdom to investigate when to follow something and when to let it go. And so in this naming process, we may find it a relief to see that we have hundreds of thoughts going by. And really, they're just one thing, thinking. And our thinking, my thinking isn't me. And as we begin to notice and name and do our best to treat all of our thoughts and emotions the same, we can sense a part of us that's not in the thought. It's aware of our experience, knowing directly, but not caught in it. And sometimes we can touch upon that place of clear and compassionate knowing of everything that's flowing by. And if we sometimes get overwhelmed by troubling thoughts and emotions, this can really be a relief. And with some practice, this knowing awareness becomes more familiar and has an appeal to it. There's a calm and a peace to this place that's aware of our thoughts and feelings and isn't part of them. So these two wings of the practice can help us in challenging times. One shows us how to have a lighter touch on our thoughts and feelings and to let them move rather than holding on too tight. And the second brings us into connection with a quiet, always present space of calm inside us that can be our oasis in hard times. And the more we practice, the more accessible that space becomes. And as we're holding ourselves in this space of knowing clearly by direct experience what is arising, we can hold ourselves in kindness. Wishing in gladness and in joy, may I be free from harm, safe and protected. May I have ease in my life. May I take care of myself happily. And when things are challenging, may I have compassion for myself. May I hold myself kindly. May I see directly that when I cling, suffering occurs, and when I let go, I can find ease and well-being. May this ease and well-being include another person, a teacher, a benefactor. It could be a child or an animal or our first Dhamma teacher. Seeing this being happy and healthy, wishing them to be free from harm and have ease. And letting a sense of kindness flow into compassion for this being, this benefactor. Wishing them to be free from their suffering and hoping that they will hold themselves with compassion when things are challenging. May you be free from your suffering. May you hold yourself gently when things are challenging. And then including in our heart center a close friend, envisioning them happy and healthy, having ease in their lives, letting these thoughts of kindness and compassion include them in our hearts. May you be free from inner and outer harm, safe and protected, and have ease and well-being. Or whatever phrase works for you, or a sense, a feeling, a felt sense that they have happiness and the causes of happiness, and hold themselves gently and with compassion when things are challenging. Letting just the right amount of effort be present to let our hearts and minds incline toward including a neutral person or a group of neutral people. Someone that you saw today, or maybe yesterday, that you know, just as I wish to be happy, you also wish to be happy. This could also be a group of neutral people, those who may be in illness, those who may be subject to violence, those who may be fleeing their homes. There are so many groups of people that are neutral to us that we don't know, but we can include in our loving kindness, knowing that they too wish to be happy. So whether it's a group of people or a single person, as we develop this concentration to wish them goodwill and ease in their lives, that they may be free from harm and have safety. And when things are difficult, may they have compassion for themselves as we have compassion for them. Using the phrase that works for you or the felt sense, body sensation, whatever arises for you that helps you embody kindness and compassion. And may we let these thoughts of goodwill and kindness, compassion, flow to others. Some may be more difficult than others. Some may be in sorrow. Some may be in joy. May all beings, seen and unseen, known and unknown, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they have ease in their lives. Those beings that swim and fly, crawl, walk, those above the earth and those below the oceans, realized and unrealized beings, may all beings everywhere have happiness and the causes of happiness, be free from harm, be safe and protected. In all directions, in the north, in the east, in the south, in the west, our family and friends, our neighbors, those beings known and unknown, may all beings everywhere have happiness and the causes of happiness. Anicca vata sankhara upadavaya domino upakitava meruchanti te samvapasamo sukho. All conditioned things are subject to impermanence. They arise and pass away. And seeing this clearly with mindfulness brings the greatest happiness, which is peace. May the merits of our practice be of benefit to all sentient beings. This is very precious work that we do. Opening our hearts and minds to seeing clearly with intention. Thank you so much for your practice.